right now, we might be on the brink of a financial revolution. There's this thing called
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin possesses all the attributes not only of good money, but of supremely good money.
Depending on who you ask, it's either the greatest revolution since the internet or one of the greatest Ponzi schemes the world has ever seen.
Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold.
A digital currency that is not controlled by anyone, created by an anonymous founder, that surpassed only 12 years after its creation the market cap of $1 trillion. You have probably your own opinion on the subject, whether it's anger, hope, frustration, or simply confusion. However, if you encounter Bitcoin, and especially the Bitcoin community, there is this temptation, the temptation to mock.
This is just a beanie baby that runs on coal.
Stupidity! Shows you the stupidity.
If you go to social media, you see a bunch of laser eyes, memes, and a community with radical ideas, from the desire and prediction to abolish the current monetary system, to philosophical statements that just seem insane.
Bitcoin is a swarm of cyber hornets, serving the goddess of wisdom, feeding on the fire of truth, exponentially growing, ever smarter, faster, and stronger, behind a wall of encrypted energy.
But behind all this noise lies something deeper, something that is impossible to see at first glance, something that could change not just the trajectory of your life, but also the trajectory of mankind. Bitcoin could be a solution to a problem that affects all of us in nearly every aspect of our lives. We have to give the devil its due. Bitcoin has spotted what we all feel, the fact that our system is undoubtedly and irrevocably broken. The system feels deeply unjust, but that wasn't always the case. Back before our money was broken, you could have one parent working who was able to support several children, buy a house and a car, pay off student loans, and enjoy a financially stable life. The American dream was alive. In 1969, we landed on the moon, and the upper middle and lower classes were all moving up together in harmony. This world no longer exists, at all. Something peculiar happened.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
In 1971, Richard Nixon abolished the gold standard to be able to print more dollars, which hideously steals the population's wealth in order to be able to finance the ongoing Vietnam War. This seemingly insignificant moment in history, which none of us learned about in school, has had torrential consequences. From this point on, the government had the ability to print as much money as they wanted. And that's what they did, slow at first, and more rapid over time. The economy kept growing, except there was no longer everyone getting richer together. Now it was only the rich getting richer, and the middle and lower class basically flatlined to this day. Instead of the utopian dream we have outlined in science fiction stories, we slided more and more into a dystopia. Household debt exploded exponentially after 1971, so while lower and middle class income stay stagnant, they were simultaneously getting shackled in debt. College tuition also suspiciously started skyrocketing after 1971. These figures and graphs are bad when you see them, but the suffering and despair they cause in real life are much greater and in fact inconceivable. People cannot achieve their life goals. A family, a house, a fulfilling job are distant dreams and out of reach because they are systematically robbed of their purchasing power. The propagated idea that the devaluation of money is good for you is obviously complete nonsense. It's good for the people at the top. So, unless you are at the top, you are a victim of Richard Nixon's decision, as we all are. The devaluation of the currency is one of the biggest crimes a state can commit towards its citizens. All of us are gifted with one life, and if you ask me, I don't want to live this life as a debt slave in the rat race. So, the simple reason the system feels unjust is because it is. But we don't want to be martyrs, we want to be winners. The system is broken, the wrong people are winning, And the only way to flip the table is by trying something new, since the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If you want to be a winner, you gotta believe that your life can be better, and then expand your horizon with an open but critical mind. Bitcoiners claim to have found the holy solution, and they compare the process of understanding Bitcoin to Alice falling down the rabbit hole to Wonderland. Bitcoin is a paradigm shift. It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. Bitcoin might be the cure to our problem, or it might not be. The only way to find out is to try Bitcoin as our paradigm and go down the rabbit hole ourselves. As nothing can be loved or hated unless it is first understood.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
I directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except
Bitcoin is a shining city in cyberspace, and you can go there once you understand it.
If you understand that the expansion of the money supply is the driver of inflation, you will understand why Bitcoin is superior, as Bitcoin's supply is capped to 21 million. The limitation means that politicians cannot drain economic energy out of the system. Its economical soundness turns it into a perfect store of value across time, which is what a functioning money is supposed to do. It is supposed to be a savings technology that stores everyone's individual economic energy. Therefore, the function of money is not only to transfer value across space, but also across time. While fiat money can relatively reliably transfer value across space, its energy storage across time is catastrophic. As the most successful fiat currency, the US dollar lost over 95% in the last 100 years. You have to imagine that. Despite its loss, the US dollar is the most successful. All the others have lost even more. Whenever the government prints a dollar, they steal purchasing power from everyone who is holding the currency. And since the government has printed since 1971 over $32 trillion, they have stolen a whole damn lot of purchasing power.
$35 trillion. We did it. Congratulations.
Politicians don't have to economize with money because they can steal as much as they want without having to openly raise taxes. Meanwhile, the job of government-funded fiat economists is to justify this crime by propagating the lie that there is no link between monetary expansion and inflation, which is very obliging if your salary is in fact funded by exactly that very monetary expansion.
It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it.
By everyone lying to each other and patting each other on the back and pretending that everything is normal, we are heading for a catastrophe. The story of money devaluation is as old as the existence of money itself, and it always ends the same way. As Henry Hazlitt put it in his 1946 book, Economics in One Lesson,
like every other tax, inflation acts to determine the individual and business policies we are all forced to follow. It discourages all prudence and thrift. It encourages squandering, gambling, reckless waste of all kinds. It often makes it more profitable to speculate than to produce. It tears apart the whole fabric of stable economic relationships. Its inexcusable injustices drive men toward desperate remedies. It plants the seeds of fascism and communism. It leads men to demand totalitarian controls. It ends, invariably, in bitter disillusion and collapse.
The big deal is that printing money is a lot like a drug addiction. The first time you use it, it is the most potent. Afterwards, you are constantly trying to take more and more to get the same economic stimulus. Once you begin with the inflation drug, it's painful to stop the substance abuse. That's why modern economists repeat the mantra that deflation, meaning a stop of money printing, is damaging for our economy. And they are right, it is indeed damaging for an inflationary economy, just like an abstinence from drugs can be damaging for a drug addict. But the fundamental problem is not the drug abstinence, but the drug addiction. And if the drug addiction is not put to an end, it will end inevitably, as Henry Hazlitt described, in bitter disillusionment and collapse.
Ever since I met you, everything I have ever cared about is gone. Ruined, turned to shit, dead.
Fun fact of the day, things get cheaper when more is made. Deflation is just the inevitable consequence of production. You can only hate deflation because you're a misanthrope who loves destitution, a thief living off inflation, or a university consumer propagandized by thieves.
Now here, you see it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. The Red Queen.
Meanwhile, the citizens stuck in the fiat world have to run double, triple, tenfold faster just to keep their head above water. The Red Queen effect means that staying in the same place is falling behind. If you don't want to fall behind, you either have to run faster or change the game you play. Smarter, not harder.
It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change.
If you play a game where the rules are stacked against you, it is smart to play a different game. That's what Bitcoiners decided to do. Bitcoin is a monetary network that doesn't leak because the monetary rules are set in code, based on math, protected by computing, and linked to the laws of physics.
I don't know what you mean by glory, Alice said. Humpty Dumpty smiled contemptuously. Of course you don't, till I tell you.
The glory of Bitcoin is the combination and integration of various components from different disciplines, like cryptography and game theory, that guarantees absolute digital scarcity, that turns the network into a perfect store of value, which in fact leads to an appreciation of purchasing power across time for anyone who is saving his economic energy in it.
Bitcoiners have been suffering from deflation for the past 15 years, and it has been absolutely glorious. And there's nothing better than it. Everything just keeps getting cheaper in Bitcoin.
Everybody wants to trash talk Bitcoin maximalists. Nobody wants to tell you what you can hold for the next 5 years that will outperform Bitcoin. If you decide to simply safe your economic energy in a money that has clear economic rules and a supply cap, you will outperform investment bankers, people with PhDs and smartasses on the internet who think their societal status grant them anything. You simply buy Bitcoin and outperform everyone. This is the Red Queen effect in practice. It is not the strongest that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Clear thinkers take feedback from reality, not society. The alternative continues to be playing the fiat circus, and that's just a losing game because the rules are corrupt and stacked against you.
So let me say it a different way. Okay. People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay?
We call them poor because they cannot own the fruits of their own labor. In fiat world, you are subordinate to the state. What you achieve economically in your life is not your property. The state can take it away from you, either physically, digitally, or hideously by printing money. What is ownership if not the ability to resist confiscation? From this point of view, the only thing you can ultimately only own are your Bitcoin, because everything else can be taken away from you. The keys to your Bitcoin are pure information, 12 words. This is the key to your life savings. Bitcoin has completely flipped the board when it comes to defining property. You can keep your entire life savings in your head, and when knowing and owning are conflated, the dynamics of violence change a lot.
And at the end of the day, you can tell everybody to go fuck themselves. You can put it in your head, memorize the freaking key, right? And it's here. And then, you know, the classic Bitcoiner response is, oh, yeah, my Bitcoin, I lost it in a boating accident. But what it means is, at the end of the day, if you push me too far, I lost it. It's gone. Sorry.
You're right.
Tax that.
Through Bitcoin, you can finally and irrevocably own your time. You can secure your time. You can secure your property. The information in your head is the key to access your battery.
What a strange world we live in, said Alice to the Queen of Hearts.
We were born into a system of systemic time theft that nobody voted for. We were never asked if it was okay for other entities to inflate the money we all use. If people have had the choice, which system would they have opted for? Either way, they didn't have a choice. Individuals had no alternative. This has changed with Satoshi Nakamoto's discovery of absolute digital scarcity. Bitcoin is the revolt. Satoshi Nakamoto started a peaceful, silent revolution. No riot, rebellion, coup, or election will ever achieve anything compared to what Bitcoin has achieved, is achieving and will achieve by setting the people free from central bank debt slavery, and by that, freeing us from the matrix into which we were all born.
The rule is, jam tomorrow and jam yesterday, but never jam today.
In our current fiat-denominated world, everyone is running around every day chasing a dragon they'll never catch. Like heroin junkies, people run around pursuing pointless careers that won't bring them anything but addictive material cravings. Fiat robbed our ability to find meaning in our own lives, because we are systematically robbed of the energy to actualize our potential in our own lives. By stripping away the ability to build a meaningful life on a secure financial ground, you lay the foundation to let people slip into a form of nihilistic hedonism. The fiat system is predicated on the belief that humans have no intrinsic value. They don't own the fruits of their labor, which means that they are no more than servants of the state. Bitcoin acknowledges that humans have intrinsic value by granting the ownership of one's own time. And by letting people reclaim their time, you give them the opportunity to focus on the things that they find meaningful, important, and fulfilling. In our modern, isolated lives with artificial culture, artificial food, and artificial jobs, all based on artificial money, we can easily forget what we are. We are the history of mankind and the history of life. You are a link in the unending chain of life. And the biggest reason why your individual gameplay differs so much from the human law is because our money is broken. The reason we haven't entered into an inspiring future is not because of scarce resources, greedy producers, or selfish landlords. They were always scarce, greedy, and selfish, but because the government steals systematically from their citizens. And through this theft, they have stopped most of the progress for the normal individual, which is very inconvenient if you happen to be one of these normal individuals. And since we have only been given a single life, the whole thing becomes even more tragic.
Who in the world am I? Ah, that's the great puzzle.
Now, what is your role in all of this? You came into existence when you were born. At least your consciousness did. If you lived before, or if there is an afterlife remains unknown, the only thing we have for sure is this life right now. We're all chained to the unforgiving arrow of time. We're born, we live, and we get old. At least that's what we hope will happen. Then we die. If we've managed to reproduce, the existential baton is handed over to the next generation. This is our story. And what you do in the meantime is up to you. You can only find the right answers for your life by lowering your time preference and looking inwards. If you exit the rat race through Bitcoin, you reclaim your time, and by that you have the time to find your place in the world. Nobody will give you this answer but you. Bitcoin is just a tool, nothing more. However, tools can have an indescribable effect on our lives, and the greatest effect, the greatest value of Bitcoin lies in the empowerment of the individual. You have something valuable to bring into the world, something no one else can bring in. Bitcoin empowers you, not through words or laws or petitions, but by securing your life's energy. And once you use Bitcoin as your battery, something interesting happens. You lower your time preference. You think more long-term because your money appreciates in value. By that, you can send economic energy to your future self, which incentives you to balance short-term and long-term decisions in a way that benefits your life as a whole. Most people aren't interested in making a lot of money, but in making a lot of living. The more money you save, the more living you can make. but this ends with your death. So, you also have to spend your money. You learn to economize your money and your time. If you store your economic energy in fear, on the other hand, you lose energy across time without using the energy yourself since your battery is leaking. Your life's energy is stolen by those who inflate the money.
I'm not strange, weird, off, nor crazy. My reality is just different from yours.
What of the two worlds are insane? The world with a working battery or the world with a leaking battery? Bitcoiners are so different and radical because they live in another reality. In their world, their money appreciates over time. They can save. There is more of each individual because the economic energy is not stolen. It is the most life-affirming tool you can imagine. It is virtually impossible not to become radical once you see what it does for individuals and human civilization.
Alice laughed. There's no use trying, she said. One can't believe impossible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Impossible things don't happen until they do. The taming of fire, the wheel, the printing press, gunpowder, electricity, the internet, all of these things changed the projection of human civilization so fundamentally that it was for most people at the time just inconceivable. But once a few generations passed, you could no longer imagine life without it. Our descendants will think that a society based on centralized credit money is complete totalitarian madness, and that anyone who simply accepted it was either completely blind or controlled by a schizophrenic doublethink of Orwellian proportions. And they will be right. Most people tend to take feedback from society, not reality. They catch up with where the world is heading much later. Remember the Red Queen? You stay in the same place and fall behind because you don't adapt.
The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed.
From the outside, Bitcoin looks like a cult, but if you dig deeper, you'll realize that if Bitcoin was a cult, it would be the only one in the world where its members would be invited to think for themselves and not trust any other members. And that's what I tell you as well. Don't trust me, don't trust anything I say. Verify for yourself. The process of understanding Bitcoin is the process of criticizing it and thinking about how it could fail. You go down the rabbit hole by being extremely critical, extremely skeptic, prioritizing truth above all else, accepting that your ego gets slammed several times in a row. And if you're like most people, the deeper you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, the more you'll probably realize that you're actually climbing out of a hole that you've been in your entire life, the hole of fiat world. Bitcoin is unique because it replaces tyranny with consensus. Everyone has an intuitive understanding of good and evil. The values that Bitcoin embodies are individually and socially good. That's why no one can get out of the rabbit hole. It's impossible to dig a few hundred hours down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and not become a maximalist. These people simply don't exist, and they don't exist because Bitcoin is a bulletproof technology.
I've never met any critic that spent 100 hours studying Bitcoin.
Yet most people fail at the first step down the Bitcoin rabbit hole because you have to admit that you've been scammed, you've been fooled, you've been lied to all your life. Many people cannot make it past this first step. It requires humility.
I don't think, then you shouldn't talk, said the Hatter.
You're born too late to explore the seas, too early to explore the stars, just right to fix the money. So, congratulations for that. Maybe you should seize this opportunity. You can take the orange pill today, or you can take the orange suppository in a decade. The choice is yours. And as I said, the magic of Bitcoin is not transferring money 10,000 miles away. The magic is to transfer money 10,000 days away. Bitcoin allows you to own yourself across time. Fiat makes yourself worth less across time. By that, owning Bitcoin is one of the most self-affirming things you can do. But as I said, don't trust me. Verify for yourself.